Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Lulu Essey podcast. I'm Lulu, and today we're talking about something that I hope will change how you think about difficult emotions in a meaningful way. I invite you to consider that emotional resilience is not about becoming tougher or about avoiding pain, but instead, it's learning to bend without breaking. And before we get started, please share this episode with someone you care about. These conversations can truly shift lives, and sharing helps us reach more people who can be given hope by hearing this message. Sharing makes a way bigger difference than you may think. This is part 2 of our 3-part series on the intersection of trauma and healing. It's part of an interview I had in April with the wonderful Hawa Who from keepcalm.org, which is a non-profit focused on creating a world where everyone has access to the resources they need for mental health. If you missed part 1, don't worry. Today's episode stands completely on its own. But I do encourage you to go back and listen, because there are so many valuable insights in last week's episode about redefining trauma and breaking through the myths that keep us stuck. I shared with you before that this interview was recorded during a mental health relapse for me. And if you're watching this episode on video, you'll notice I'm really not looking at the camera. My eyes are focused elsewhere because all my energy was completely concentrated on my speech and holding the conversation together. This is what showing up messy and unwell looks like. And it's exactly the reminder I hope you take from today's episode, that meaning and value often happen in the messy, messy moments of life. In part 2, we're exploring emotional resilience, how to actually build it, why it's essential for healing, and the important practical tools that can help you transform your relationship with difficult emotions and with trauma. You'll hear about my Tiny Way to Big Impact framework. You'll hear about mental fitness deposits and 2 powerful practices, the kind witness and in this moment only. And just so you are aware, when we switch to the conversation, we dive straight into Hawa's first question about emotional resilience. There's no warm-up. We're going right into the heart of it. So let's go to that conversation now.
I guess the next question would be the role of emotional resilience in the healing process. Right? And so how does emotional resilience play a key role in the healing process? And can someone truly heal without building emotional resilience, or is it a necessary component?
Okay, so I love this question. I think emotional resilience plays a pivotal, a vital, a key role in healing trauma, because it is essentially about building our capacity to be with the full spectrum of our emotions without being overwhelmed with them, or by them, I should say. It's not about becoming impervious to pain or hardening ourselves. It's quite the opposite. I believe that true emotional resilience is about flexibility, not rigidity. It's the ability to bend without breaking. It's the ability to feel deeply without drowning, and to sit with uncomfortable emotions without immediately trying to fix them or escape them. And this is a big one. People find it difficult to sit with uncomfortable emotions. And it is so important to have the emotional resilience and the willingness to do that. In my personal journey, I've discovered that emotional resilience isn't about constructing a life that avoids potential pain. You know, no, we don't want to wrap ourselves in cotton wool and kind of create this life of avoidance, but it's more about creating an internal foundation that we know and we have the confidence that we can hold and deal with whatever life brings to us. And this kind of resilience is built through what, in my terminology and in what I teach, I call tiny deposits into our mental fitness bank. And these are small, consistent practices that gradually expand that window of tolerance I spoke about. It happens when we practice being present with our emotions rather than fighting them or resisting them. It happens when we build self-trust through keeping the promises we make to ourselves. And when we learn to stay connected to ourselves, even during, and most importantly, during the difficult times that we experience. And, you know, to answer the question, can someone truly heal without building emotional resilience? Well, my perspective is that, you know, I believe that they are so deeply interconnected that they can't be separated. Healing builds resilience, and resilience creates the conditions for deeper healing. It's not, you know, it is another one of those beautiful spirals that I love to talk about, where each supports the other. And when we develop even a small amount of resilience, it creates more safety within us for another layer of healing to emerge, which in turn builds more resilience. So without some measure of resilience, we tend to get stuck in patterns of avoiding and numbing and becoming overwhelmed by our emotions. And people do that through drugs, through alcohol, through food, through shopping, and online shopping particularly. And all of those things make sustainable healing extremely difficult. The capacity to be with what I like to call the messy bits of life and the uncomfortable parts is the very foundation that allows that healing to actually take root inside of ourselves.
Wow, it's very nice. This is really good. I think this is a great conversation we're having. So,
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
yeah, of course. Okay, so when it comes to practical approaches to healing and moving forward, right?
Yeah.
What are some practical tools or strategies you recommend for someone looking to start healing,
Okay.
start their healing journey from trauma?
Okay. So I am all in on tiny steps, and you'll hear me repeat that over and over again. And when it comes to practical approaches to healing from trauma, I believe in what I call, and it's one of my frameworks, I call the tiny way to big impact. And it's about recognizing that transformation doesn't happen through these dramatic gestures, these overnight solutions, these grand epiphanies that people have lying on the bathroom floor. I mean, if that happens to you, amazing. That's incredible. But for most of us, it happens through small, consistent actions that build over time. And the most powerful place, I believe, to start is with what I call mental fitness deposits. And what those are is they are small, intentional practices that gradually build our capacity for that emotional resilience we spoke about. And it begins with self-awareness coupled with curiosity. rather than judgment. And that's a big one, because self-awareness is one thing, but judging ourselves seems to kind of automatically come along with self-awareness. So I am a proponent of self-awareness and just being curious about it and not judging it. It's noticing our thoughts and our feelings without immediately attaching to them, over-identifying with them, or believing every thought that crosses our minds. One of the most transformative tools I found is learning to separate our facts from our feelings. And I came across this through the work of Dr. Susan David, because the thing is, our feelings are valid, but they aren't always telling us the full story. And this distinction between when we separate our facts from our feelings, it creates this tiny bit of space between stimulus and response. And that's where our power lies. Another practical tool that I love is mindfulness and presence, because those are deposits as well. And I'm not talking about hours of meditation. It can be as simple as what I call the 3-breath reset. And all it is just taking 3 conscious breaths to bring yourself back to the present moment. And then the next one is my favorite, and that's gratitude. And I truly believe that gratitude is a mental fitness superfood. Because even in our darkest moments, finding one tiny thing to be grateful for, to be genuinely grateful for, can shift our perspective in really remarkably profound ways. And gratitude doesn't invalidate the pain of what we're experiencing. It simply expands our capacity to hold both, and it gives us a moment of relief. And sometimes that relief is like a lifeline. But what I do want to say is that what makes these tools work, and the only thing that makes these tools work, is consistency. And that requires commitment. And here's the truth that many people don't want to hear. Most days, we won't feel like doing them. And that's where the real work happens. Showing up for ourselves, even when motivation is just freaking nowhere to be found. This is how we build trust, deposit by deposit. But there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that is in terms of a tool, and that is one of my best friends, grace. And there's a delicate balance between pushing ourselves to keep our promises that we've made to ourselves and knowing when we need to ease up. And finding where that line is a very personal journey, and you have to figure it out for yourself. It's like knowing. It's like asking yourself, am I giving myself a free pass? Am I taking the easy way out? Or do I honestly need grace to just step back and not do the thing I said I was going to do? And some days that can be the most compassionate things we can do to ourselves, for ourselves, to rest, to give ourselves grace rather than pushing forward. There's 2 other processes I'd like to talk about, and that is the kind witness. And the kind witness is literally about, like, when you're feeling dark, it's about taking a step aside. It's almost like visualizing the darkness and just being the kind witness to your own sadness or darkness. Not about fixing, just saying, it's here, I see you, and it's okay that you're here. And again, it's about giving ourselves that moment of relief. And we can also be the kind witness to other people's pain, which is very important. It's not always about the person who's been through the trauma. The other process I love is in this moment only. And this is a process I use when I'm truly feeling overwhelmed. I put my hand on my heart, but really connect with my body. And I close my eyes, I take a conscious breath, and I say to myself, in this moment only, I am okay. In this moment only, I am breathing. In this moment only, I have choices. And that's it. It's radically simple. It doesn't fix anything. But again, it's about those moments of relief that give us a little bit of space to take the next step forward. Because no matter how dark, there is one tiny thing that you can do to take a step forward. Even if that tiny thing is grabbing a glass of water and hydrating, it can be as simple as that. And that's what people don't realize. It doesn't have to be a big monumental event. It can be, but what I like to think about healing is in these small steps that are doable, because our lives aren't perfect and we face challenges all the time. So how can we still heal and still move forward and still deal with the craziness of life?
Wow, that was really good. Like the in this moment only. I was actually practicing it as you were speaking. I think it's just that realization of like, sometimes like you can get stuck and you think like your mind is playing tricks as in like
Yeah.
there's no moving forward. This is it. And so like in those moments like I feel very like stuck, in as much as I've been there so many times. I've never had a tool of that sort to just tell me to tell myself in this moment only some kind of encouragement.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think how the important thing is to make the words your own, and that's another thing. I give suggestions, but I want people to take these tools and kind of experiment with them and morph them and make them feel like they belong to them, not to me. So in this moment only, I am loved, or in this moment only, I feel peace. Whatever those words are for you, that's what you need to say. You had asked me a question about building emotional resilience while dealing with ongoing challenges, and there's a little bit more, if you allow me, that I wanted to say about that, if you're okay with that, because this is so crucial. People think life has to stop in order to heal, and I believe that they need to be able to heal while dealing with ongoing challenges. Life is not going to pause while we heal. The challenges keep coming, and often they come before we're ready for them. And this is where self-compassion becomes absolutely crucial. It's understanding that healing, it's not linear. It doesn't follow a perfect timeline. And some days we'll take 2 steps forward, 1 back, and some days we'll just take 3 steps back. And that's not failure. That's being human. And the tiny approach I spoke to you about is especially valuable during ongoing challenges because it makes healing doable. And I want people to realize that healing is doable where they're at right now, even when life is messy, especially when life is messy and we're overwhelmed. So, what I found really profound about this concept of taking tiny steps, whether it's a conscious breath or writing down one thing that you're grateful for, is that these deposits, like I like to call them, they compound over time. And each time, each small act of showing up for ourselves builds evidence to our brain, that we can trust ourselves. We are actually building new neural pathways, that we have agency, even in difficult circumstances. And this compound effect is what gradually transforms our relationship with past trauma and present challenges. And I want to just talk about when the magic really happens. The magic happens in the moments where we feel least capable, but we show up anyway, even in the tiniest way, because that's where resilience is truly built, not in perfect circumstances, but in the messy, imperfect reality of our everyday lives. And I would like to share something with you about this very particular conversation that we're having right now. I'm experiencing a mental health challenge at the moment, in real terms, what's called a relapse. And I've had to take a little bit of time off work to take care and rebuild my mental health. And I really thought about this conversation with you, and I thought about whether I should be having it, given that I'm in this state, and whether I should rather wait until I'm feeling better to have this conversation. And then it was so clear to me that this is exactly when this conversation matters most. Because this is healing in action. The reality is that life is not going to pause while I heal. You know, we don't get to press a button that says, please stop, I need some time to heal. Healing happens while life continues to unfold in the messy, imperfect way that it unfolds. And what I have really discovered that I think is very important is that I can be a light to someone while struggling. I can be a support to someone while needing to be supported myself. It's not either or. It's not an all or nothing approach. And I do believe that there is something incredibly powerful about connecting through our shared humanity, rather than presenting some perfectly polished, perfectly curated, healed version of ourselves that we post on social media. And I believe that the world does not need our perfection. The world needs our humanity. And sometimes that's a very scary, vulnerable place to be, but I think it's the most powerful place to be.
Thank you so much, Lulu. You're such a, I think you're such a light, honestly. And, you know, like, I think the mental health space, is like, it needs your spirit, you know? Because it really, it's like, it's beyond the science of it, right? It's also has to do with the soul and the spirit of the human. Because it's what really keeps us going, right? Kind of the saying of, you know, your desires are put in your heart, and your heart is supposed to work with your mind to bring that into fruition. So without like your sanity, things can be very hard. So, you know, I think this space definitely needs some light, and you're actually given that. So I would say definitely keep doing what you're doing. I, I definitely appreciate you.
Thank you. What a beautiful honor to explore emotional resilience and to get to share these practical healing tools with you. I'm so appreciative to Hawa for our conversation, and I hope that you found real value in what we discussed today. And I hope you are reminded that our trauma does not define us. It is just a part of the beautiful and sometimes really painful tapestry of our lives, and we can transform this trauma so that it doesn't keep us stuck. We do this with consistency, with love, with patience, and with the right support. Next week, in our final episode of the series, we'll be exploring something equally powerful, and that is how to rewrite your story without erasing your truth. We'll explore how to honor what happened while not allowing it to define your entire narrative. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and tap that notification bell. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, it would mean so much to me if you left a review, and please share this episode with someone who needs these tools. Go on, text this episode to 2 or 3 of your friends, your family members, or colleagues, and let's spread this hope. Links to Hawa Who and keepcalm.org are in the show notes. And as always, what comes from the heart reaches the heart. And today, with deep respect for your courage to show up imperfectly and your willingness to build resilience one tiny step at a time, this comes straight from my heart to yours.